partnership. Actually, I was hoping one of you could explain to me what that is.
So basically, it is this like collaborative platform for people like artists who are creating some maybe art or like background images or music, and then you're supposed to work together. So it's really cool in theory, and I was a little skeptical until I realized that those creators actually will get paid for their work, and that's the biggest thing for me is compensation.
Right.
So it does seem like there is that intention behind hit record.
I guess, how does that work? You're creating assets.
You're creating assets for the game.
Them,
yeah, and then they might appear in the game.
If they do appear, then
you get some kind of compensation for it. Yeah, maybe a little credit line.
Yeah, this is a company that's been around for a long time. I remember hearing about its setup years and years and years ago, but I think primarily it was just in the entertainment industry for like movies and TV shows and things like that.
Yeah, the game connection wasn't a thing until today.
Yeah, which is really cool because this could be, you know, it's another avenue for big companies like this to get more involved with getting, you know, independent artists, independent musicians more involved in the gaming community, which I think is great.
Yeah, I believe Joseph Gordon-Levitt went on Twitter after the presentation and said that, you know, apologies, it wasn't clear, but there will be compensation for creators, and that's like really the big takeaway there. We don't want to have a situation where people are creating their amazing work and then, like, you know, effectively getting nothing but a little shout out for it.
Yeah.
All right, and then also this morning, Square Enix held a press conference after taking a couple years off. What did you think about that one, Rory?
I actually was.
Yeah.
I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan, and I got to play the game at Santa Monica a couple of weeks ago, but there was a lot of stuff in the trailers that I had never seen before, which was really exciting. Obviously, it was similar to the stuff that we'd seen at the Xbox conference, but anything more in that game, and I'm really excited to see more. I can't wait till January 29th.
Yeah.
It's too far. I just want it now. I'm just sitting there at home with my Keyblade waiting at the door for it to arrive. So it was really good. And a lot of the Tomb Raider stuff as well.
I liked the
really
Tomb Raider stuff a lot. I don't know, Tina, have you gotten to see the new Tomb Raider footage from today?
I saw the trailer too. It looked like fantastic. It was such a like mood-setting trailer, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like this trilogy of games is getting Laura to the point where she was at the original Tomb Raider in whatever, 96.
Hopefully not graphically.
No, not regressing that way. But like now she's like coming into battle prepared with like a survival knife instead of like making use of what she has at hand. So,
different kind of survivor this time.
All right, well, we still have so much more to come here on day, what is today, 3 of E3 of our IGN coverage. The Sony conference is coming up later on. Super excited for that. IGN Live at E3 2018 is presented by Sicario Day of the Soldado, only on the big screen, June 29th. All right, it's time for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is next.
Before you find IGN's awesome content anywhere else online, you'll find it right at home on IGN.com. With IGN First, you'll get a sneak peek at never-before-seen gameplay, exclusive insights from developers, and a whole lot more. NVC Live brings you IGN's Nintendo podcast up close and personal. Engage with other viewers, ask our NVC hosts your burning questions, and become a part of the show. Don't miss out. Find everything first on IGN.com.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're bringing the memes, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The IGN app is the best way to stay up to the minute on what you love. No matter what you play, create the custom feed and filter what you want to watch. Live streams have never been easier to find. With the floating video player on iOS, you can keep watching the live stream as you read other news. World premiere trailers, and the biggest games. Download the IGN app from the iOS or Android stores now. Sign up for notifications and we'll alert you the second news breaks. Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. We've got exclusive, we've got hands-on demos, we've got brand new trailers, and you can catch it all on IGN.com and Disney XD. And be sure to join the conversation on Twitter by tagging us at IGN with the hashtag E3 2018 and weigh in on what game you think should be in the running for the best game of the show. We'll announce the winner this Thursday on IGN.com. While you're at it, don't forget to download the IGN app for the latest news. All week long, we're bringing you live coverage from the biggest events, like the Nintendo Direct and the Fortnite 50v50 Celebrity Pro-Am stream, so you won't want to miss that. Up ahead, we're checking out the latest World of Warcraft expansion Battle for Azeroth, then we're going live to the PlayStation Showcase. But first, let's welcome Dan and Rich to give us a look at the latest game in the Tomb Raider franchise, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You guys, the game looks gorgeous. I got to play it a couple of months ago, so good job.
Thank you.
How's the fan reception to it been?
It's been great about the whole thing, so we're very, very proud and happy to see the reaction.
We think it's really exciting because we really look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider as both the end of the trilogy, but also a perfect jumping on point because this is Lara Croft's defining moment. So it's been great to see the fans saying, yes, I can't wait to see how Lara becomes the Tomb Raider. And it's also been great to see a bunch of new people saying, okay, maybe I need to go back and play Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider because this is the Maya apocalypse. This is Lara Croft really deciding and becoming the Tomb Raider she's always been destined to be.
That's the thing that interests me in it the most is this is kind of a story, from what I can gather, about Lara almost coming to terms with the fact that she's not perfect, that some of the mistakes that happen in the universe are actually her fault. Can we talk about what that is going to be like for players?
Yeah, the thing that we wanted to do with this game is that we wanted to make sure that when we presented the kind of Lara, was a Lara that before on Rise and Tomb Raider 2013, she was dealing with the action that was not, the consequence of the action that was not from her.
Yeah.
It's always from other people. And for us to really bring you a more mature Lara Croft, you know, she was getting closer to what she's destined to become, the Tomb Raider. We need to make sure that she understood that there's responsibility of your action. You're just gonna go there and just take an action and without thinking about it. And the whole game, for us to say, she needs to reach, you know, the maturity is to understand the consequence. And this is what the whole game is about.
I think that's a really interesting take because, you know, originally when she was introduced, she didn't have that much personality, and then we've known that she's a caring person, she cares about her friends, she built her relationships, but it seems like this time around it's more about her taking responsibility for who she's becoming. Was that difficult to write?
It was difficult because one of the most difficult emotion to convey is guilt. Because, you know, as an audience, you don't necessarily feel guilt for the action of your protagonist. In this case, it was very, very important from the get-go that we absolutely nail guilt. And that's why when you play the beginning of the game, when she takes the dagger and you see all the consequence that it made, and even the child, you know, the child that you're like, oh, I could save, because normally in previous games you would be saving the child. In this case, it's happening, and you're like, oh my God, I feel the guilt of what happened.
Yeah.
And I think in addition to guilt, what I really love is it's that balance. There's more inner conflict than we've ever seen in Lara Croft before in terms of the choices, the consequences of her actions. But we also have to make sure that they always have that aspirational quality. That for Lara, she is doing what she feels is right. And yes, she makes a mistake and she triggers the Maya apocalypse, and so she feels compelled to fix things. And along the way, you may question her motives and say, okay, how much is driven by revenge? You'll see Jonah acting as her moral compass. But with that guilt comes self-sacrifice and comes perseverance and comes Lara pushing through the darkest parts of her moments and the darkest moments of her life to become the Tomb Raider, and that means stepping out into the light. So that I think is a great balance.
I was going to ask about that next, sorry. This does seem like her darkest story. Yeah, would you guys agree with that?
I would say there's the darkest moments in there. Of course there is. You can see a couple of snippets during the video, the trailer.
Even the tomb she's in right now. I think this is the first time that you guys will be seeing this. It looks pretty dark in here too.
It is dark because the take that we wanted to do with Tombs is really going to the terrifying and deadly aspect of it, because we want to push that. This is going to be the most Tomb Raider of the Tomb Raiders, okay, the Tomb Raider, previous Tomb Raider. And there's a lot of also light moments in the game. One of the questions we asked ourselves the first time was like, if Lara would sit down at a cafe and exchange and making jokes. What would that be? You know, and we were like, oh, we never did that. So what would that be? And then we start having moments like that, much more positive and it more feeling about, you know, it's humor and it's funny.
You have to have that balance.
Exactly.
Otherwise, the darkness starts to lose its impact.
Exactly.
And so what you need to have Lara on a roller coaster ride. You need to have her pushing. And you're right, it is the darkest in terms of the story. Oh, he's going to get me.
There's a fly in here.
You have to have those moments where Lara does hit rock bottom, but you also have to show how she climbs back out again. You have to see how she pushes herself, like she always has throughout the series, pushing herself beyond normal physical, human limits, mental, spiritual, emotional limits, to push through those barriers to become what she's meant to be and to do what she thinks is right. And so having that light and darkness balance, but yeah, the dark moments are really dark, we think that's what makes this story really special.
When I wrote my first impressions of playing the game a couple of months ago, I actually said that I thought this was her darkest story yet, and I really liked that about it, but I did have a lot of people ask me, is she still likable? And I feel like she is, but that's a good follow-up, is how difficult was it to, you know, show a darker side of her, show Jonah calling her a narcissist and telling her that what she's doing is wrong and she needs to think about everyone else, but still have people feel like she's that same Lara.
And that's the thing, that was a big challenge, because normally when you start and you know, their hero does something that you wouldn't do, and you'll be like, it's very difficult. But for us, like the Day of the Dead moment was very important. You see a Lara that's much more human, having conversation, Jonah, talking about what she likes, the food that she likes, and things like that was really important for us to expose that part of humanity, so that when she does the things that she does, you understand it's her character flaw. Because a human being, it's not just about how strong and quality, you know, the good qualities you have.
Yeah.
It's also the bad qualities and the things like, in her case, the obsession.
Yeah.
We've always striven to make Lara one of the most relatable characters possible. We always wanted to show the very grounded, very mature approach to her story. And part of that is doing things that is a little bit risky with her character, but to your point, she always has to feel like she's fighting for what she believes is right, and that, I think, is what keeps her relatable and likable, because she still is a hero. You know, even if she's at some times struggling to not become the monster she's facing, you know, at sometimes she's saying, okay, I can't live in a world where the ends justify the means. You know, she is walking right up against that line of becoming closer to Trinity, and watching her get close to that darker side, to that shadow side, if you will, and then pulling herself away from it. That's what I think makes the journey so compelling.
Yeah, and I did also want to mention that the game's antagonist is actually kind of a likable guy.
He is a likable guy when we start writing the story, because when you want a most relatable character like Lara Croft, we wanted to go into much more personal, much more internal. We wanted to have the world being as live as possible, but also when we look at the antagonist, we said, what would be, you know, if she's white, what would be the black side of it? When is she's black, how could it be white? And we exchanging that, it became almost like a waltz. And both of them are completing each other, and because of that, you have a Lara Croft that you understand a little bit more, because the other character is also human.
Yeah.
And it's cool to think that villains would be the hero of their own story. He is not some mustache twirling, you know, oh my God, I want to. He is doing what he thinks is right for his culture, and we don't want to spoil too much, but for where he comes from, and he is trying to remake the world in a way that he thinks will be better for humanity. Now, he's doing things that are going to wipe out a lot of human existence.
So is she, though, right?
And that's the push and pull, right? That's the conflict, and you saw a little bit of that in the trailer as well that we debuted yesterday. This idea that is that duality. There are those conflicting and those mirrored sides where he is at times a very relatable villain, where you're saying, I can kind of understand what he's doing, and at times Lara is skirting that edge of saying, wow, Lara, what's your motives here? Again, Lara will always be the hero and he will always be the villain, but we love having them kind of meet in the middle at key points.
I feel like you guys nailed that, and I could talk about the story forever, but I'm sure everyone at home wants to know about gameplay as well. So one concern that I had is that this is going to feel too similar to previous games. What has changed?
It's because one of the things that you started with the beginning of the game. The beginning of the game is introducing all the things you've learned, all the things, so that feels a little bit similar.
It's tutorial.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly, but what changed a lot is the way we build the entire level design. Has, you know, we had difficulties at the beginning. We were like, oh my God, we have to change the whole way we building the levels for
now
traversal,
you can
for example.
rappel,
Because you can rappel, because the previous games you can only ascend, and if you were dropping, it's because you were falling, but never, you know, because we didn't want Lara to lose control when she was descending. We want her to be stay in control. So the whole way to approach level design, also the environment, also when she can basically also, you know, climb on the ceiling of things, so that also open up. So there's a lot more in the traversal than you've seen before. The same thing with combat, because we try to provide much more control to the player.
Stealth stuff is really cool.
Yeah, but there's much more opportunities, because on Rise we provide a lot more opportunities in assault. We call that assault, when you go full gun blazing. In this case, we wanted to make sure that because she's much more experienced and competent, she would become the world, not just being a threat, you know, not just for the enemies, but also becoming that world. And that was important for us. A lot more option, a lot more things in terms of the experience. The same way with the tombs, for example, or when we're talking about going on the water. So those we made sure that this evolution was big for each of our pillars. And exploration, the same way. We never built a hidden city. We never built a city where there was people there in the way that we did. So we have to rethink how you would be building all these hubs. So now the whole thing for us feels very, you know, it's kind of similar, but also like having this new treatment to the entire thing. So it really feels different in terms of the overall experience when you experience all the pillars.
I think that the thing I like best about it is we're taking Lara, and this is the end of her origin story, so it is the most capable, the most calculating that you've ever seen her before.
I'm totally sold on Lara.
So in order to still provide a challenge, we had to up the ante in every other facet of the gameplay. So to Dan's point, the combat, you have more options, but you also have more challenge. In the traversal, you have more options, but you also have more challenge. The tombs, they're more than ever, they're bigger than ever, but they're darker, they're deadlier, they're scarier than ever before. The hub, the biggest we've ever delivered in a Tomb Raider game.
About next is like, how does that open world? That looks crazy too.
We have to take you on the roller coaster ride, but every now and then we open it up and let you just experience the world at your own pace and say, hey, you can pause the narrative now. It's the biggest tomb we've ever delivered, or sorry, the biggest hub we've ever delivered in a Tomb Raider game. There's challenge tombs, there's side missions, there's social puzzles, there's people to interact with. There's all this stuff to do, and again, everything is about raising the stakes across the board. And so we think that that's what really will feel different. It should still feel like you're playing a Tomb Raider game, but it should feel like you were playing with a Lara Croft who has been through a lot and is now really coming into her own, and the world is pushing back and the enemies are pushing back even harder than ever to try and stop her from achieving her destiny.
I have to say, I love how passionately and easily you guys are talking about this. And I know everyone's really, really excited about it, and I love this iteration of Lara so much. So thank you for joining us. We've got to take a break, but we've got to look at World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth coming up next. So sit tight.
Before you find IGN's awesome content anywhere else online, you'll find it right at home on IGN.com. With IGN First, you'll get a sneak peek at never-before-seen gameplay, exclusive insights from developers, and a whole lot more. NVC Live brings you IGN's Nintendo podcast up close and personal. Engage with other viewers, ask our NVC hosts your burning questions, and become a part of the show. Don't miss out. Find everything first on IGN.com.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're bringing the memes, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The IGN app is the best way to stay up to the minute on what you love. No matter what you play, create the custom feed and filter what you want to watch. Live streams have never been easier to find. With the floating video player on iOS, you can keep watching the live stream as you read other news. World premiere trailers, and the biggest games. Download the IGN app from the iOS or Android stores now. Sign up for notifications and we'll alert you the second news breaks. Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
And we're back live from the heart of E3. If you want to join the conversation, hit us up on Twitter at IGN with the hashtag E32018. Now, we've got the PlayStation Showcase in just a bit, and later we'll be breaking down our picks for Game of the Show. But first, it's time for something that I'm extremely excited for. From Blizzard Games, let's welcome John Haidt to take us through an exclusive look at the all-new World of Warcraft expansion, Battle for Azeroth. John, how's it going?
Thanks, James. It's doing great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to E3. I think it's going to be a great show.
I'm looking forward to World of Warcraft going back to the roots for me, which is the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance. And I think one of the ways in which you're doing that is Warfronts. So can you tell me about what Warfronts are and what kind of new gameplay opportunities they bring to World of Warcraft?
So just to set the stage a little bit, and probably going to be a slight spoiler, but for those of you that didn't see the opening movie for Battle for Azeroth, there's this epic battle that takes place at the gates of Lordaeron, which was originally owned by the Alliance, and the Horde kicked them out. The Alliance kind of won it back. But a pivotal area that's still going to be battled over throughout BFA is in Alterac Valley, at Arathi Highlands, at Stromgarde. So Warfronts, the initial Warfront takes place there. The Alliance has Stromgarde. The Horde has set up a base across from it. And you and 19 of your friends are going to be able to either defend that base if you're Alliance. I notice you're wearing blue.
Yes, you caught me.
Or you can attack that base if you're Horde. And then as you capture the enemy commander and take him out, then you seize control of that base, and now Arathi belongs to you. And you'll actually have access to pretty cool world boss, some other goodies for winning that.
Maybe some great armor. So it's very interesting that this is taking place in Arathi Highlands, because that's, for me, the first zone where I engaged in this emergent open-world PvP that has become so synonymous with World of Warcraft. And I think really speaks to the heart of what the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance is.
You're one of those Tauren Mill guys, I can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my favorite time. So are you trying to emulate that experience with Warfronts? Is this PvE? Is this PvP? What are we looking at here?
So this is going to be a PvE experience. You'll come into establishing your base. You'll have to actually gather some resources, some lumber, and you'll have some guys picking up metal for you. But as you accumulate these resources, you'll then make decisions about what you want to do next. Do you want to build up a mage tower? Do you want to create siege engines? Because the next step is you're going to have to take some of the pivotal places on your way to the fortress. And you are going to need those siege engines to break down the walls.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Now, another very interesting feature is islands. So islands, as far as I understand them, are these kind of almost mini open world dungeons with this pseudo PvP element, and actually you can choose to have a PvP element in it that almost has these roguelike bits to it, where there's random faction and all this random stuff. So tell me why you're excited about islands and why you chose to do this for Azeroth.
Islands I think are going to be a lot of fun. It's essentially 3 players, and you can play either PvP or PvE. But we put a lot of effort into crafting AI within the PvP or PvE opponents that you're going to be going against. And they have very specific behavior patterns. Some of them are going to be just all out looking for you and your team and trying to kill you off. Some are going to be, I think that's what you're referring to, Sneaky Pete style, where they're going to go and try and get the Azerite, which is the key element that everyone's fighting for in Battle for Azeroth. They're going to try and get it before your team does, so you have to try and kill them off. But I think you'll find that they'll alter their behavior based on your behavior. which is very different for anything that we've done before in PvE. And that AI, and that investment AI that we've made, I think is going to also be pretty exciting in both Warfronts and in other areas of the game.
Wow, so we're going to see that. And I actually want to speak to that because I was able to play Islands, and I have never seen an NPC in my, 14 years of World of Warcraft. I've never seen an NPC jump while I've been attacking them. And jumping is something that I think that is intrinsic to player behavior. And so seeing that and seeing them react in a way that I'm not used to is really interesting. So I want to ask you what you are going to be doing with that AI that you may have or have not talked about, and where we're going to be able to see that new kind of advanced.
Well, first off, really is an island, so that's where we're going to premiere it. That's where we're going to be tuning it. If you're playing in the beta right now, my apologies. It's a little bit rough because we start out kind of tough. We want to play like a high-end player would play, and then we'll adapt. We'll tune the game to you and your playability as time passes. But that's where you'll see it initially, and then don't be surprised that we start leaking it into other areas of the game.
I want Gen Greymane sneaking around Elwyn Forest, and I want the Horde to try and gank him with that AI. Anyway, so talk to me about the AI that is not, or the NPCs that are not mimicking players in the islands. Are we going to see random bosses? Is this going to be replayable in that sense?
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of different types of islands that you run into. The objectives on the islands are things that we're randomly setting up when you first queue to get into the island. So you never know exactly what you're going to be going up against. There's the teams, the objectives, and the island layout itself.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's move on to these zones in which Battle for Azeroth are set. These are zones that players have wanted to play for a long time. Kultiras and Zandalar. Tell me what each of those evokes in terms of both thematics and gameplay.
Oh, sure. Well, if you're an Alliance guy, you're going to love Kultiras, seafaring nation. This is also giving us a platform to tell some stories about a few of the characters that either have been out of the lore for a while, or perhaps we didn't say much about in Legion. So this is going to be a great story point for Jaina, and how she rallies the forces of Kultiras against the Horde. On the opposite side, Zandalar, there are a lot of troll fans out there, and I think they're going to be pretty excited about what we're doing with their culture, their mythology, and they get pretty hairy, pretty sinister. Blood Trolls are a pretty cool looking group. Don't be surprised if you don't see the opportunity to play as a Blood Troll at some point.
Ooh, here comes the World of Warcraft Reddit with the new allied races, which is a great segue to allied races. The Zandalar, as well as the Kultiran humans, are coming in BFA. So explain for folks who may have been out of World of Warcraft for a few years what allied races are.
So allied races is something that we introduced with our last content update that was 7.3.5, and it's a way. We're essentially in this mythos. You as an Alliance player or as a Horde player need to go out and find some allies to help in this battle between Horde and Alliance. So in allied races with 7.3.5, we actually had you go to some of the Legion races that were available. So if you were on the Horde side, you got to create an alliance with a High Mountain Tauren or with the Nightborn. And then you could actually play as a Nightborn or as a High Mountain Tauren. So you had a couple of options there. You could go back to level 20 and level 1 up all the way up to 110. And if you did that, you unlocked a really cool heritage armor set, which gives you bragging rights to all your friends. Or you could do a faction change once you had unlocked that race.
So we know we're going to get this fantastic dungeon and raid experience that is indicative of the content you've been doing for the past 14 years. But I want to talk about PvP, something that has been in flux for a very long time. What is War Mode?
So, one of the things that has happened over time is originally we'd set up servers so that you chose up front, I want to be a PvP server, or I want to be on a non-PvP server. And over the course of time, maybe some of your friends have moved to another server, or, there's a guild that you want to be part of.
Betrayed me.
Yeah, well, perhaps. And so a lot of players would kind of complain to us, like, I'm just trying to level up. I keep getting ganked. This is no fun for me. So we recognize that we wanted to make this an option. You can decide whether or not you want to participate in PvP. Now, if you do, there's some sweet rewards available to you. So I know you're a PvP person. There's going to be cool armor, weapons, maybe a mount. I don't know. But there's cool stuff available to you if you participate in that.
And one of the things this is really exciting, one of the reasons why this is really exciting for me is because it allows you to not have that weird kind of divisive opinion about should we support PvP servers or PvE. You can support war mode. So what are some of the new things that you're adding to war mode? I heard like kind of PUBG-esque loot drops thrown around and maybe items that can dismount players. So what are you doing creatively within this war mode?
We haven't really announced much there. I would encourage you to keep tuning into the beta and see what we roll out there.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's speak about dungeons. What are you most excited about in terms of dungeons and the conventional raid content? What are the dungeons and raid teams doing?
So what's interesting, I think, this time for us is that we do have faction-specific dungeons, and we will have level-up dungeons along the way. So you as an Alliance player will have access to some dungeons that the Horde players don't play, and vice versa.
Excellent. And then in terms of raids, have you announced anything? Do we know where that's going to be taking place?
Not yet. Raids are right around the corner, though, in terms of what we're going to tell you about it. Raids are typically something that we unlock a few weeks after we've actually released the new expansion.
Cool. Let's jump back to Warfronts super quickly. What can I expect in terms of rewards for Warfronts? What is the incentive to play this? And is this going to be kind of naturally given to players as they progress along the new campaign?
Yeah, so I guess jumping back, you have two completely exclusive zones, one for Horde, one for Alliance, but throughout the campaign, we have a thing called the War Campaign, which will actually take you to the enemy faction zone where things feel pretty dangerous and pretty scary. And so as you level up, you'll be unlocking things along the way. Once you reach level 120, you'll have the opportunity to play in Warfront. Like I said, the first one is going to be at Stromgarde. And what's happening is you're actually collecting resources. This is kind of a nod back to AQ. And in accumulating those resources, your faction can speed up the rate at which they essentially seize control of this area, or they either become the defender or the aggressor in the area. The fruits of the rewards that you get for all of your labor, fruits of your labor, are essentially when you're in there and you're playing in a zone, and you own the Stromgarde or that area, you'll have a world boss that you'll be able to fight, and there's essentially a raid level piece of gear that you'll be able to get. So
wow, that's very cool.
That's going to be pretty cool. As I said, there's also Azerite, which everyone's trying to collect to help power up their Heart of Azeroth, which is kind of the replacement for, if you played in Legion, we had artifacts. We wanted you to be able to have different weapons this time, so we're retiring the artifact system.
Now it is an amulet, which is
You'll
really
still
exciting.
be able to keep your artifact and transmog with it. But yeah, it's an amulet, and there's 3 pieces of gear that you can now use with your amulet to power up those gear pieces. So when they drop and you realize, oh, this is something I can power up with my Heart of Azeroth, it's going to be a pretty exciting moment for you in the game. And you'll have that same kind of tech tree and collection aspect in the Heart of Azeroth, but now you can apply it across 3 items.
All right, we're running a little short on time, but really quickly, what are you most excited for in Battle for Azeroth for players to get their hands on?
I mean, the gameplay is going to be awesome. I think that, the team has done such a fantastic job in giving depth and tying all aspects of the game systems back to the lore. I think the storytelling that we did with Legion was great, and if you love that, you're going to like BFA even more, because I think we develop a lot of the characters in the game. We tie it into the gameplay. I think it's going to be a very rich experience.
I cannot wait. You can get your hands on Battle for Azeroth August 18th. Did I get that correct?
No, you did not.
Well, you can Google it. Break time, but PlayStation is going to be spilling all their secret
3 p.m. Pacific time, August 13th.
August 13th. 5 days off. Break time, but PlayStation is going to be spilling all their secrets next, so stay tuned.
Before you find IGN's awesome content anywhere else online, you'll find it right at home on IGN.com. With IGN First, you'll get a sneak peek at never-before-seen gameplay, exclusive insights from developers, and a whole lot more. NVC Live brings you IGN's Nintendo podcast up close and personal. Engage with other viewers, ask our NVC hosts your burning questions, and become a part of the show. Don't miss out. Find everything first on IGN.com.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're bringing the memes, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The IGN app is the best way to stay up to the minute on what you love. No matter what you play, create the custom feed and filter what you want to watch. Live streams have never been easier to find. With the floating video player on iOS, you can keep watching the live stream as you read other news. World premiere trailers, and the biggest games. Download the IGN app from the iOS or Android stores now. Sign up for notifications and we'll alert you the second news breaks. Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. PlayStation always puts on a good show at E3, but will this year's presentation live up to everyone's high expectations? Let's take a look. Before we start speculating, here's a quick recap of what Sony has been up to lately.
Sony has a track record of announcing games years before they're released. We're looking at you, Last Guardian and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
They are coming back.
But good things often come to those who wait, which is the case with God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn. Both of which released to rave reviews and the sales numbers to back it up.
Comes from here.
Now, Sony has some lethal weapons in its arsenal that are locked and loaded. Insomniac's Spider-Man is set to redefine the wonders of superhero exploration with its incredible-looking web-slinging.
Maybe the city needs our friend more than you think.
Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima trades in the neon-soaked cities of Infamous for the rustic temples of feudal Japan. Death Stranding continues to look every bit as weird as we hoped it would be. But the most anticipated game in Sony's lineup this E3 is sure to bring the competition to its knees. The Last of Us Part 2.
Cut her down. She's one of them.
Sony can easily end this console generation on top, so long as it continues to crank out the heavy-hitting first-party games that are breaking the mold. Just a few notes. Stay the course, give release dates, and for the love of God of War, let us change our PSN names.
And joining me now are Alana Pierce, Lucy O'Brien, and Tina Amini from IGN. So yeah, Sony's been pretty transparent about this. It feels to me a lot like when a parent sort of tells the kids, like, hey, don't expect too much for Christmas. Money's been kind of tight. There's not going to be any big presents. Obviously, there's still going to be some surprises, but they've been upfront about the 4 big first-party things that we are going to see. Let's go around really quick. What are you looking forward to the most, each of you?
All of them. I'm going to say Death Stranding.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Death Stranding.
Oh, you took my one. I'll say The Last of Us Part 2.
I will also say all of them, but I'll say Ghost of Tsushima, and not because I just want to like mix it up here.
Okay.
Genuine.
Let's talk about the one you guys all just missed, which was Spider-Man, which is coming out really, really soon. That's right around the corner. I'm not hyped about this in the same way I am with sort of the rest of them. It's very
well, it's not as much of a question mark, right? We know a little bit more about it. We know who the main villain is. We don't even know that for any of the others. So I feel like we kind of have more of an understanding of what we're going to get from Spider-Man. We're looking at gameplay right now. That's more than we've seen of the other 3. So it's kind of more set in stone, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what we're going to see at this conference is a big set piece that's just like showing off how amazing Spider-Man is going to be. It's basically really building on hype that already is at fever pitch.
Well, I'm wondering if what I want to see from Spider-Man. I'm already sold on it. I'm totally going to play this game. But what I really want to see is what we do in the open world. I want to know if there are side quests, what they look like, what it looks like when I'm not already locked into a main story mission, and how that traversal, like how much fun that looks jumping around the open world.
Yeah, they showed us like that very, very big kind of helicopter chase set piece. That was just last year. That feels like quite a while ago.
Yeah.
But as far as the sort of moment-to-moment kind of things you do in the open world, they've touched on it a little bit. We know that the fast travel system, he takes the subway, ironically.
I think it's pretty cute.
But yeah, like I like that side of it. I just want to see, I don't know, maybe see like an iconic villain. We've seen, it's Mr. Negative, but maybe something a little more kind of old school.
I want to see Doc Ock.
Yeah?
I'd really like to see him, but I'd like to see a lot of them, actually. It would be really cool if, like, the older Spider-Man games, which I actually really enjoyed, you kind of have different parts of the story that are about you taking down a different villain, and it's just the main one at the very end.
Yeah.
I love how the MCU does a really good job of tying in all of the movies together, and so even because we've seen so much of this and we know the release date, there's so much news that we already know about. I just want the Easter eggy stuff. I want to know how. I know that we're gonna have some Marvel buildings in the game, so are we gonna get the Wakanda Embassy or an Avengers Tower? I'm really curious about that stuff.
I'm thinking we're probably going to see some Miles Morales because they teased him at the very end of this demo from last year, and just last week, Sony Pictures Animation dropped the trailer for Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, which is of course the whole thing is that there's a lot of different Spider-Mans in the many different realities.
Spider-Men.
Yeah, or even Spider-Gwens.
That's the thing is I'm hoping we see Spider-Gwen too. If it's being tied into the Spider-Verse, I'd really like to see Spider-Gwen. I love her as a character. It'd be really cool to get to jump around as these different versions of Spidey in different universes.
Yeah, I like that idea. I really like the idea that they're going to, I mentioned I think it'll just be a set piece, but I'm kind of on board with what you guys are saying now. I love the idea of actually blowing the whole thing up. So we think we know it's this game, but it's actually something way bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think at base value, it's a known quantity. It's Spider-Man. We've got 65 years of source material to pull from, or whatever it is. But as far as
what happened to his parents?
I think it was bad.
Can we see that again?
Bad shellfish, something like that.
Ben, what happened to him?
But no, yeah. When this game first came out, when the announcement first came out, everyone was really surprised to see that it was Insomniac because everyone was expecting it would be Sucker Punch, who are known for big, huge open world superhero games like Infamous. However, they are working on a different game, which is, of course, Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost, singular.
I keep screwing that up.
Yeah,
Ghost of Tsushima.
I mean, I imagine they'll do, maybe they'll pull like an Aliens and do Ghosts for the sequel.
Maybe.
What's your take on this game?
I'm so excited for it. I mean, it's my number one thing, and I think it's because we know nothing about it, and because Sucker Punch is just so good at making that really flighty feeling kind of an action combat, and I'm really curious what they're going to do with it here. So obviously, you play as a samurai turned ninja, I guess, and so I see there's some possibility there for that Sucker Punch traditional kind of movement. So I'm really curious what they're going to do, and I love the idea that they're weaving in this cultural clash because it's an invasion. And so what I think is going to happen is that it's going to merging of cultures is going to turn into a gameplay element. We already saw that there was a gunpowder grenade that you have, so I'm really curious about all of that.
What's interesting to me now about this game is that we've just come off the back of Microsoft's conference where we saw Shadows Die Twice, which is again a game set in feudal Japan where you play as a ninja. And I mean, they're very different properties, but I just think it's interesting that they're showcasing two ninja games on either side.
Yeah, move over hero shooter trend. Now it's all about ninjas.
Yeah.
I'm so okay with that.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it, but it's going to be really interesting to see the different kind of worlds. This, to me, looks... I mean, I know that they've said that it's not, historically accurate. It's more like a jumping off point, but it does look more historically accurate than From Software's title.
What I'm really curious about with this one is exactly how grounded it is, because if you look at kind of Sucker Punch's catalog, they have almost a similar trajectory to what Naughty Dog did, where they started out with a cartoon mascot, and then they went slightly more realistic with a kind of an action hero. But in the case of both Sly Cooper and with Infamous, there's you're just jumping all over the place. You're bounded all over the place. It's not really grounded. Are we going to play as a flying ninja? Is there going to be wall running? Is this going to be a gritty Naruto, or is this going to be a little bit more down to earth?
I think we're going to get some parkour.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he was flying above a horse and kicking a guy in the head. There was some flight in there.
Yeah. Like, I love the Ninja Gaiden series, and I was wondering if it might be, like, slightly Ninja Gaiden-esque. Not necessarily in difficulty, but just, like, jumping around walls and jumping on giant things. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but in my head, I picture a mech showing up at some point.
Ooh, I like that.
Huh.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
No, I like it. I really like the idea of it not being this like gritty, grounded thing, because that's kind of the vibe that I got from the first, stuff that we've seen. I really like the idea of them blowing that up and it just being crazy.
That's what I want.
Well,
yeah.
Speaking of crazy and unexpected, and I guess to a lesser part, mechs, we're also going to see Death Stranding, which is, of course, the first brand new IP from video game auteur Hideo Kojima. This is his first thing he's done since the much publicized departure from Konami. We have no idea what this game is about.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. It's clearly about... Nope, no idea. Nope. You've lost me. I'm really excited about Death Stranding. I've said this before. They don't have to show me gameplay. You could release one of these weird trailers every year, and every year I would be like, I love this short film that you've made. I don't know what it means, but I'm very interested in it. And I have this theory that the baby is Norman Reedus.
All right.
And he's protecting the baby in order to protect himself in the future.
I
I think.
I'm dying to see some gameplay for this. I have no idea what we're really looking at. Yeah, on the subject of, again, I guess, confusion and not really knowing what's going on, there's also, of course, The Last of Us Part 2, which we've seen two kind of cinematic trailers for. One of them had Ellie playing the guitar. We go, hey, that's Ellie, we know her. The second one had a bunch of brand new characters. What's everyone's take on The Last of Us?
It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, duh.
Hot take.
Yep, and done. All right, and now we're over. No, I think it's a no-brainer. People love The Last of Us so much. I don't even need to see this, I'm going to buy it, which probably applies to all of these games, honestly. It means they've done a good job of marketing. But we want to see gameplay. We want to see how it's improved on the first game. I want to see what that stealth dynamic looks like, and I want to know who I'm playing as well.
And I'm really curious about this theory that, we're going to be able to see Ellie's mom, too, because it does sound like there's a lot of connections between both what she says and what Ellie says in that first trailer when she says, I'm going to kill them all. It's clearly this vengeful kind of story. Mm-hmm. What could get her so riled up? But, this connection that she had in the first game to her mom, I imagine that, there's no one from the original game that she's so mad at that she would have that kind of reaction to. So
I can't imagine
totally
it's
in
Joel,
for that theater.
not that we know where he is either. Like, I'm curious about that too. And from what we've heard about this game, it sounds like the first one was a game that was sort of more about love, and this one is more about hate. And I really wonder how that's going to make everyone feel about Ellie as a character who we grew to love because she was so innocent and naive. And maybe this time she's a lot more hardened, and that's going to be a tough transition for them to make, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it makes total sense. Sorry, it makes total sense because at the end of the game, she has this turn where she's just kind of realizing, like, even this father figure in Joel kind of betrays her.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll harden her. And a world like The Last of Us, if there's anything that's going to turn your innocence, it's that.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how she is depicted as a 19-year-old. I mean, we really grew to sort of love her in Left Behind as well, and we sort of got to know her a little better and on a sort of more intimate level. And I think that we are possibly going to see more of that this time around. But going back to your point, we have to see gameplay tonight.
Yeah.
There's no way that they're not gonna show us actually how this game plays.
Right. Yeah, one thing that fascinates me is obviously the first game kind of came in as, it was sort of a modified zombie story. There's the infection, the cordyceps and all that. We've seen them for a second in the most recent trailer, but it seems like a much bigger emphasis on the human interactions, which is obviously the thing that people are talking about, and Naughty Dog's a studio that has grown up quite a lot. While we count down the minutes to the PlayStation's E3 showcase, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because we will be right back.
The IGN app is the best way to stay up to the minute on what you love. No matter what you play, create the custom feed and filter what you want to watch. Live streams have never been easier to find. With the floating video player on iOS, you can keep watching the live stream as you read other news. World premiere trailers, and the biggest games. Download the IGN app from the iOS or Android stores now. Sign up for notifications and we'll alert you the second news breaks. Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're bringing the memes, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Before you find IGN's awesome content anywhere else online, you'll find it right at home on IGN.com. With IGN First, you'll get a sneak peek at never-before-seen gameplay, exclusive insights from developers, and a whole lot more. NVC Live brings you IGN's Nintendo podcast up close and personal. Engage with other viewers, ask our NVC hosts your burning questions, and become a part of the show. Don't miss out. Find everything first on IGN.com.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. We've been talking about the 4 big PlayStation games that Sony is publishing, but that won't be all that they're showing. There will almost definitely be some surprises from other publishers. One third-party title that debuted famously on Sony's stage 2 years ago is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Will we finally get an update? Let's find out.
In its wake came an age of silence, but let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back.
We haven't seen Final Fantasy VII Remake in a very long time. It was originally announced at E3 2015, and it's sort of gone radio silent. The last big news that we got about it was May of 2017, when Square announced that they would be taking development internal. They were originally partnered with CyberConnect 2, but now they've taken the whole game and moved it to an internal development team, which leads me to believe that they're probably starting over from scratch. Simply put, the reason why we're excited for this game is because it's Final Fantasy VII. This is one of the biggest and most important games of all time. The idea that they would reboot this game with the graphical fidelity and the power of the PlayStation 4 behind it is exciting to people who are Final Fantasy fans like myself and the populace at large that never got an opportunity to play it. Now, the original Final Fantasy VII was a PlayStation exclusive, but obviously we've seen Square Enix port some of their big franchises like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts to other systems, so we may see Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS4 as well as Xbox and PC. Now, as much as I would love to see Final Fantasy VII Remake make a huge reappearance at E3 this year, I just don't think it's going to happen. Square has been radio silent for too long, and it just seems like maybe they're taking their time to do a really important, really big re-reveal, but it might be too soon.
At last, the promise has been made.
Yeah, I definitely get the feeling we won't be seeing anything of Final Fantasy VII Remake for quite some time, but I have been proven wrong, so that being said, let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff we might get to see.
My one thing I really want to see out of the show, aside from that, Big 4 is another one that is kind of up in the air and has been for a long time. Where is the Resident Evil 2 remake?
Yeah.
Come on, Capcom.
I firmly believe we are going to see it.
Yeah?
I don't know whether it's incredible wishful thinking, but I just have this feeling that this is the year we're going to see it. And I could not be more excited.
No.
I could not be more excited. Like, I want it debuted on the Sony stage. I want to see gameplay. I just Capcom's got to bring the goods.
I'm also just very, very curious about how it's going to look, especially after the dramatic change of Resident Evil 7. And I have to say, when that was announced, I was like, it's first person. I don't like it. It's not Resident Evil. And then I played it and I was like, oh, no, it is. No, you guys did a good job of this. So I'm really wondering if it's going to be first person. It is a complete remake, and maybe if it'll have PSVR integration. It honestly seems incredibly unlikely to me that they would release it without a PSVR component, meaning they kind of have to make it first person.
That's just so crazy to me.
I know, it's weird.
Because when you think about the awkward sort of angles that Resident Evil 2 was shot, I can't sort of imagine taking that into a first-person world.
I mean, it'd have to be a full remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
ground
really
up.
would have to reimagine new spaces.
That makes me think of Metal Gear Solid 2 Twin Snakes on GameCube, which added the first-person component from Metal Gear Solid 2, but broke the game because they didn't change the architecture. So there were
They'd have to completely reimagine the architecture, which is just that blows my mind.
Maybe that's why it's been so long since we've heard about it. They're just changing everything from the ground up, but I don't know necessarily what I want. Like, you know, the nostalgia in me says, oh, I want it to look the same and just be pretty, and I don't want it to change, but they really did prove me wrong with the Resident Evil 7. The way that it felt like Resident Evil. It felt like finding weird symbols and keys that unlock certain doors. It still felt like that true Resident Evil experience, much more so than a lot of the previous games that were more action-oriented. So I think they can kind of show me whatever at this point, and I'll be like, all right, just don't have that weird part like you did at the end of Resident Evil 7 where it got boring.
Yeah.
Everything else is great.
But I think you're right, like, you know, when it comes to sort of PSVR, obviously Sony, that's still a thing for them. That's still something that they have to focus on, and the marriage of those two things will bring long-time Resident Evil fans to PSVR in spades. I will be getting a PSVR unit if it's
for Resident Evil 2.
Yeah,
I
just
think
for Resident
a part
Evil
of it,
2.
like coming off of us talking about Final Fantasy 7, is the thing is we haven't heard anything about RE2 in a while, so it seems like they can make a hard new reveal and everyone will be really excited. With RE7, not RE7, with Final Fantasy 7, we last heard that it was going to release sometime before 2023 and that they were sorry, but that wasn't too long ago. They just hired someone who's working on battle systems. So, you know, the fact that we've heard news about Final Fantasy 7, to me, indicates that it might be a little bit further off. The fact that we haven't heard anything about Resident Evil 2 in way too long makes me think it's time to hear something.
Well, the last thing we heard was that Capcom had updated the, was it the trademark or the domain names or something?
The domain name, yeah.
Resident Evil 2. So that's hopeful.
That's something.
Like, we're clinging on at this point.
Yeah. No,
you updated your domain, which you have to do annually, please.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I still have the domain for FinalFantasy7.com. Head over for all the updates. No, but let's see. Moving on. Another big, huge sort of HD remaster that was announced the same year as Final Fantasy 7, I believe, was, of course, Shenmue 3.
It
Tina.
is so not going to happen, but I would love for it to happen. It debuted, at 3 years ago at E3. We haven't seen a ton of it, and I think the last big trailer that we actually saw, people kind of had a lot of negative things to say. A lot of the facial animations were pretty stiff, which honestly is a little bit of a Shenmue staple anyway. But they came out and they said that they actually hadn't put facial animations in, and maybe it is a situation where they were being incredibly transparent and decided to release what they did have anyway. And so I'm just really keen on seeing it again to really put that to the test.
I didn't keep up to date with it. How did the Kickstarter go?
Oh, 6 million plus. It
so it went
broke
okay.
records at the time.
So
it was really impressive. So that's why it just seems like the future is pretty bright for it if they have all that cash, right?
Yeah, and they also announced that they're doing HD remasters of 1 and 2, which I think those have release dates. I feel like maybe I think Sega just announced that they're going to also be coming to PC, which I don't know if that was public information or not, but they're making an effort to put more of their games on PC.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm like the thing is like Shenmue is just sort of a lot of people talk about it.
I've never played Shenmue. What's the catch for you guys?
Okay, so it's kind of like a situational thing, because at the time it was groundbreaking. Like the whole open world, you can go and interact with so many people. You can open every drawer. There was just so much that you could do. You could live in Shenmue.
You can open drawers?
Yeah.
I love it how those little things stick in your memory.
Like one of my favorite things about GTA 5 is people hiding from the weather with newspapers. Those touches in open worlds are really important.
It's the really small details. And I think now that that's kind of more formalized or more set standards for it, I would love to see a modern version of that and see what they do. And I love the story, and I love all the things that you could do, from those big harbor combat fights to forklift racing. All of that needs to come back.
Well, one game that I'm really looking forward to hearing more about, this is sort of a moot point because it has a release date. It's coming out in August, and it's kind of a successor to the Shenmue games. Yakuza Kiwami 2.
You like Yakuza?
I am a big fan of Yakuza.
It
wouldn't surprise me if this popped up on Sony's stage, but really, it's very much a known quantity. This is, of course, it's stupid to be like, what are you excited about seeing on this show? Oh, I'm looking forward to the remake of the game from 2006.
Well, the Yakuza franchise is actually nailed coming out with releases and getting hype around every single one of them. There are a lot of Yakuza games at this point, and they're all really, really well received. They are very, very fun, kind of insane open worlds. They get pretty crazy.
Yeah, they had a big push in 2001 with the first one. They localized it all. They had a bunch of, I think Mark Hamill voiced Majima there. They put a bunch of people in it, and it came out, and it kind of just landed with a thud. It wasn't a huge hit in the West. And I feel like they've, with the PS4, really pushed to try to get fans in the West, and
they've always had a presence at PSX and everything, so it's definitely a thing they're focusing on. And I'm just going to jump off this conversation and say that I would really love Sleeping Dogs 2. Probably not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Would be cool if it did.
Yeah. Now, we did get a brand new announcement from Software, Lucy. I know you're looking forward to something else, though.
Okay, so if you'd asked me the day before yesterday if I thought Bloodborne 2 could it be a thing that was announced tonight, I would have said yes. But then, obviously, Microsoft announced Shadows Die Twice, which is being led by the core team at From Software. So I think that a Bloodborne 2 announcement is unlikely.
You can't make Bloodborne 2 without Miyazaki, without making people mad.
Exactly. It's not going to be made without Miyazaki, and it really sounds to me like when he said, I'm kind of disinterested in doing more Souls at the present time, you know, he meant Bloodborne as well, so that kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But listen, there could be a surprise. I mean, it's a very slim chance that it could be announced, but they could just be like, oh, also, we've had this in the can for a while.
I wonder if part of the strategy, knowing that people really wanted Bloodborne 2 to actually debut it on the Xbox stage when it comes to Shadows Die Twice, was to make people not expect Bloodborne 2. So that people didn't go into the conference and end up disappointed when it wasn't there.
That's my very, hopeful take.
Yeah.
I just, obviously last year when it was teased, when Shadows Die Twice was teased, and there was that image of this character's bloodied prosthetic arm.
I thought it was like a torture
and everyone
thing.
was like, oh, it's a torture thing from Bloodborne 2.
It's like a pulley. It's just like that was such a strange reveal.
It was.
It was like 3 seconds and everyone lost their minds.
Yeah, it was a super Kojima-like reveal, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have my absolute fingers crossed that we would see Bloodborne 2. I think it's
Every
time.
single finger? You have all of your fingers
all
crossed?
of my fingers crossed at once.
Wow.
That we are going to return to Yharnam. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Do you really want a Bloodborne 2, or do you just want another Soulsborne game that takes that formula and tweaks it yet again?
I want Bloodborne. I
Yeah.
want Bloodborne 2. I want to return to Yharnam. I was one of those people that came on board the Soul series with Bloodborne and then sort of retroactively played the others. So for me, I'm like a Bloodborne. That's Souls for me. That's the heart of Souls. And I know that's kind of sacrilegious to say, and like Souls diehards would be like, "You're not a real fan." But like, I really, I love Bloodborne. It's my From Software love.
Now, there was a rumor for a second that they were working on a game that was like it's kind of a Soulsborne with an Aztec influence. Have you heard anything about that?
I actually have not, and I don't.
Tell me more.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so
yeah.
it would be Aztec martial arts with the sort of Soulsborne, punishing difficulty from soft mechanic. And
It sounds cool.
I don't know if that's
I'm
just
into it.
complete internet nonsense. It sounds absolutely nothing like what we're getting with Sekiro.
Yeah. I'm happy to see that Miyazaki is working on something new and getting to take a break from those kinds of games. And this does look a lot more fluid in the environment traversal than any of his previous games. So he's getting more creative with it. I'm happy for him. But I also every fan out there is like, but where is Bloodborne? And it's a tough spot for them to be in, I think.
Yeah, we're lucky to be getting a new game from Software. From Software.
Yeah.
We are very
From
lucky to be getting a game from Software.
Then again, it's
At all.
not totally unheard of that they would bring 2 games, because Avalanche managed to somehow bring 3 open world games to E3 this year, which is a bit of an undertaking. Hey, you seem like the sort of person who enjoys Twitter, so why don't you hit us up on there? We are at IGN, and you can join the conversation by using the hashtag E32018. Let us know what you think of E3 so far, and in fact, do that right now because we're about to take a quick break, but the PlayStation E3 showcase is starting in a matter of seconds, so seriously, don't go anywhere. This is where it gets really, really good. Hang out.
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
I think we can all agree that teamwork is vital to any important partnership. Thankfully, E3 Live 2018 is brought to you by Sicario: Day of the Soldado in theaters June 29th. Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin are teaming up again to fight the cartels, and for one of them, it gets personal. Like friends turned into enemies personal. See what I mean in this exclusive clip.
Turning you loose. How loose? No rules this time.
Your assignment is to kidnap Isabel, the daughter of a cartel leader. try to make it look like another cartel is responsible for the kidnapping.
It's your chance to get even for your family.
Alejandro's daughter was kidnapped and executed. And here he is kidnapping a young girl who's about the same age.
I know who you are. You're the attorney whose family they killed. And now you hunt them.
Adios. Not they.
My father.
She becomes a pawn in their chess game.
We can't risk her falling into the wrong hands. Clean the scene.
That relationship changes something in him. He starts to have compassion towards the daughter of his enemy.
You gotta get rid of her.
I can't do that.
Good luck.
Luck doesn't live on this side of the border.
Okay, so we got you all hyped up about the press conference, which is starting literally any second, but I don't make the rules here. So until then, let's talk about Spyro the Dragon.
Ah, he's a friendly dragon.
What do you think of him? Is he cool?
He's very cool and intrinsically tied to PlayStation, so
Yeah,
I
he's
want to
such an
see.
icon.
He's such an icon. He's like their second mascot.
He's been through some changes, though, since he started appearing on Skylanders. He got kind of, like, ugly adolescent years. He got all scaly, and it
I
was,
don't
like, a little
count
bit
Skylanders.
weird. I don't like the Skylanders games,
Oh,
all right?
well,
But...
And that's it. It's the Sony presser. Enough about Spyro. Let's get right into it.
Please welcome Sean Layden.
Hey guys. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for making the time tonight to come to church. This fulfills your obligation for the coming Sunday, for those of you who need to know that. But thank you for coming out. It's great to see the congregation as large as it is tonight under this single tent. And for those of you who may be a bit apprehensive because you remember that movie Kingsman, it doesn't end that way. It doesn't end that way. So, but no, again, thank you. And as you can see from this evening, we've decided to mix it up a little bit in the way that we're doing our E3 presentation this year. You know, we look at what the stories have we tell and the things that we want to impart to our fans here with us and their fans on the live feed worldwide. And that changes our design ideas around what we can do for this show. So tonight, we're going to have, rather than a bombardment of new creative, we're going to take all of you on a journey